Ooh, what's going on, everybody? It's OnoLive once again. Thursday nights, coffee and cigars here, and it's what is it today? It is the 10th of June. We're rolling through June already. Gosh, 2021 is smoothing by. We're halfway through the year already. Crazy, crazy, but yeah, we're here again with our episode number 46. Oh, I forgot to update the, no, what episode is this? This is episode something. Hold on, let me just have a look here. Yeah, so here we are, rolling along. It is another Thursday night here in lovely Baltimore. And Baltimore has been, oh man, it's pretty hot today. It's pretty, well, this week has been pretty darn warm. We've been hit with this kind of heat wave, and it's been kind of hot. Hot is the only way. Oh, 46. We are episode number 46. Sorry, I can't remember these things. I have to update one of the banners so that you can see it. Blah, 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 blah. And sometimes if I forget to do things, we're just going to cut that part. All right, here we are. There it is. It's rolling. There we go. There we go. Right down there, our little banner. So episode number 40, this is live stream number 46. Tonight we'll be smoking the Henry Clay WarHawk and drinking the Finca Sumada de Lourdes yellow honey coffee from Costa Rica. Gosh, there's some things I forget, and here we are again, once again. So it's pretty darn hot. It's been hot, but you know, the heat of it, the heat's not so bad. Like, the heat is not terrible. What Baltimore's weather really is terrible is the humidity. Like, it's humid, and if it wasn't for the humidity, it'd be pretty decent. Like right now, it's only like maybe 70s, mid 70s, but the humidity is so much that, like, you really feel it. And so tonight, now that we're moving into the real part of summer, where it gets pretty darn hot here, now we're going to see about how the system works in our studio. So it's going to be, you know, I might be sweating and I might be passing out, but that'll be all right, though. Not to worry about it. So like I said, tonight we're doing the Sumava from Costa Rica for our drink, our cigar, our coffee. This is coffee and cigars. Sumava. This is actually Francisco Mena. He's the guy in the bag. So if you haven't seen our packaging before at Spro, we actually put, when we are on our printed packages like this, we actually put the farmer or the farm on the packaging so you can see who they are and what they're about. And we put, this side has information about the farm, altitude, all that kind of stuff that you want to know. So, you know, what does it say? It says here, it talks about the farm manager, Jose Ordóñez. It's in the Lourdes de Naranjo region in the Tarasú Valley. And it's at an elevation of 1770 meters above sea level. What else is it talking about? The harvest date, shade grown, yellow honey. So we have that, and then there's a little bit more information on the back. And then on the other side, we put brewing information. So many different brew methods: pour over, clever. What else do we have? AeroPress, vac pot, French press. So different ways to brew coffee we put here on the side so that you can have a way to follow along and have a brew guide. So we've got that. So let's start brewing that first. Let's get that set up here. All right, we're gonna take we'll be using the Clever Brewer today. And as you know, if you watch the show a lot, you've seen this brewer before, and it's basically, well, it's a hybrid brewer. So it uses full immersion like you would with a French press. And then it filters it with the valve like a pour over. So you get a lot of that nice brew development, the body of like a French press, and then you get the filtration and clarity of a pour over, which is what really makes this a nice brewer. And I know I've talked about this before, and I also like it because it doesn't require a lot of attendance. You know, you don't have to tend to it a lot. All right, I'm going to put that paper filter in Clever, and we've already got our coffee brewed, ground. So this is the Sumava, and it's, of course, actually this one's a little bit different. This one I pulled because this one I did a test run of this small. I did a small batch of it to do a short run, and so the short roast. So I shortened up the time, sped it up a little bit. So we're gonna see how it turns out. So it's a medium. So if you guys are like, if you're geeky about it, this is right around 55 on the Adtron scale. If you don't know what the Adtron scale is, well, there's a way of quantifying the reflectivity, or is it refractivity? Reflectivity of the color of the coffee to designated number. And so in some coffee circles, they talk about, well, what's your Adtron reading? And that's kind of what it is. It's 55 or so. 55 to 65 is kind of where we are. So the higher the number, the lighter the roast, right? So 55 to 65 is where we are for medium roast. If you've got a dark roast, you're like in 40s. And then if you're light roasting, like close to the first crack, it's going to be in the 70s and up, right? So does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense in my mind. Okay, so we're going to use 24 grams of ground coffee. And in this case, we're going to do, as you saw, it's a pretty coarse ground coffee, right? And the reason we're using the coarse ground is because it is an immersion brewing for the most of the brew session. So you want to have a little, so the coarser you grind, the less soluble the coffee, right? So like basically if you had a whole bean and you put it in the water, it would take hours, days for you to leach out the flavor of the coffee from a whole bean. But the more you break it up, the faster it happens, right? So that's why espresso is super, 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 super fine, because then you can put it under pressure and pull it in 30 seconds. So here, since we're going to be immersing it, we're leaving it at a fairly coarse grind to control the amount of extraction. Okay, so now we're going to take our off the boiling water, and if you really want to be geeky about it, you can measure your temperature or buy one of those kettles that have built-in temperature control that will precisely hold your water at whatever temperature you want. So some people will select, what are the 198, 196, 195, 190, 185, whatever they want. We take a little bit less we take a little more holistic approach. Off the boil, and then we're going to pour and saturate the grinds first. All right, there it is. So we're just wetting the grinds, letting the bloom happen. And the bloom is basically a byproduct of coffee roasting is CO2, right? So your coffee will be emitting CO2 gas for, let's say, the first week or so after roasting. And when you have fresh coffee, that CO2 will still be inherent in the bean, and as you put the water on it, it will rise, right? And so what happens is your coffee bed part of the coffee bed will start to float. And as it floats, it's no longer in the water, so it's no longer being extracted. And, it's kind of like you're not getting all that you paid for. So we wait a few seconds, like 30 seconds. And then we're going to put in some more water and break down the coffee that has floated on top while bringing bringing the water to its full volume. And what we're looking to do is 350 mils of brewed coffee. There we are. So if you have any questions about coffee or whatever, drop them in the comments below. I'm interested to know. Also, where are you tonight? What are you smoking? Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you out here tonight. Is it hot where you are? Because, man, it is pretty warm. It's actually, like I said, it's more humid than warm. It's about 76 degrees, so if we could have some less humidity, that would be really nice. I would appreciate that. But this is the Sumava de Lourdes. Let me drop that on here so you can see. This is the Sumava de Lourdes. It's a yellow honey process, and what that means is that when they've harvested the coffee, there is a thick-skinned hull that covers the bean, and underneath that is a layer of what we call mucilage. It's a pulpy, fruity matter. So for the honey processing, you strip off the hull, and then you leave the mucilage, that pulpy matter, on the bean, and then you dry it, typically in the sun. You'll see yellow, red, black, all different grades or all different colors of honey. And what that really means is that at some point in the process, whether through water fermentation or mechanical removal, the processing will have removed a percentage of that mucilage covering the bean before they let it dry. So black or red is typically no removal of the mucilage. And then from there it goes black, red, orange, yellow, white. And white being the lightest. So the Sumava, like I said, is from Francisco Mena, and he's got this place called Sumava de Lourdes, and he says it's so weird. He always talks about it being, he always pronounces it Shumava, and I was always like, Francisco, why do you call it Shumava? And evidently, Sumava is a forest, I believe it's a national forest in Germany, and he named it after that because his business partner, I think, is from Germany, right? And so, yeah, that's why they named it. So this is actually a shade-grown coffee, as you can see here. It's a yellow honey process. It's a Cultura varietal, so that's an Arabica. And so let's see, what does it say in our description here? Description says Sumava starts off with an earthy sweet fragrance that's rich and warm. On the palate, the coffee feels sprightly with light body and medium brightness. It's crisp, clean, and sparkling with notes of citrus, yuzu, honeysuckle, and the happy general feeling of summer. And since it's summertime, we're looking for happy and general feeling, right? Now, let's see if my flowery description will be matched here. And there's George on the balcony with the HVC hot cake. Oh, I haven't tried that one. I have to try that one soon. Only been smoking on the weekend since January, but it's been extremely stressful for the last month. I just need, yes, good to have some relaxation. Yeah, I don't know about you, George. I mean, for me personally, this whole pandemic, I've actually slowed down my cigar smoking. I know a lot of people have increased. Mine has decreased, so I'm seeing that yours is too. Glad to have you back. Good to see you again. And this is done. So now we're going to take our little kettle here and put that on top. And so basically, we're just going to place the clever on top, which opens the valve here, right? So if I push this, you can see it trickling down, right? All right. So now we're just going to put that down and just let it flow. And you can kind of see it flowing here, right? Oh, I hear you. I hear you on that one. All right, so let's have a look. We're here looking at the layer. Use our backlight to see. Does that tell us anything? I don't know. Probably need to open this just a little bit. With the cover, you want to open the top just a little bit like this. Just give it a little crack. Basically, it's for air displacement of the water, of the liquid, because when I've had times at the shop when, you know, this top, I guess it got really, you guys can see the condensation right here. So sometimes there's really heavy condensation, and that can, if you don't remove it, it can actually act as a seal on the lid. And I've had times when I didn't crack it and the seal formed, and basically it wouldn't flow because, of course, there's no displacement. So that will give you a little bit better. Oh, this is kind of not moving. There's still some stuff. Okay, so there it is, our lovely coffee. So let's pour that out. All right. So let's see, we're looking for earthy sweet fragrance that's rich and warm. Yes, yes. The coffee should feel sprightly with light body and medium brightness. Oh, that's still pretty good. So it says it's citrus, yuzu, honeysuckle. There's definitely like this citrusy lightness to this coffee that's still there. There's a little bit of bitterness. I think the slight bitterness that's coming on the bottom of the palate is probably more to, what do you call it? It's probably more from, I think we let it run too long because I didn't run the timer, so I've kind of went by feel. Well, here's George Brightman. George, what's going on? Crank up the volume on my, yes, of course. Let me, is that better? Is that better? How's that looking? Does that sound better? Sometimes it's just a matter of me being closer or farther away. But I will try to speak up so that it's a little bit more even with the sound. Sometimes I just want to be a really soft-spoken person. So where are you tonight, George? Mr. Brightman? Where are you at? So for those of you who might not have seen, George was with us on the show last weekend with Cirola McLean. Great time. And we had, we spent the 2 hours on our show and then went to join Coop's live stream on cigarcoop.com. That was really a great time. Really, really a lot of fun. Thanks for coming out, George. All right, so that's pretty good. It is that citrusiness that we're looking for. Now, I'm kind of wondering, like, will that go well with this WarHawk? That I'm not sure. So George saying the Henry Clay brand of cigars has a storied history. It was returned to the market in the 1970s by the Connecticut. Oh, yes. Nice, nice. Yeah, I've got this. Let's see what they. I picked up a little bit of the. Where is it now? I pulled up. Well, there's Henry Clay and there's Henry Clay, the cigar. But as you probably know, Henry Clay, the cigar, is named after Henry Clay, the the congressman and senator from Kentucky that was alive in the 1800s. And what did he do? What did he do? Let's see here. We'll bring that up. Well, let's first of all get into it, and then we can discuss. So, of course, the cigar comes from tobacco leaf. So, if you'd like to get your cigar, make sure you grab one from tobacco leaf. Right there, tobacco leaf. There it is. And then we got the WarHawk. Tonight's WarHawk is the WarHawk Toro. You know, I kind of like the Toro shape. I think it's a nice size that packs a good amount of smoke and typically good flavor. One thing that I'm surprised with, let me take this out of the wrapper here, is it's a really light cigar. Look at that. I mean, it's a nice. Oh, it feels nice, silky feeling, but it's nice and smooth. A little bit of veins there, but really overall very smooth and very light in color, like surprisingly light actually. Have you had this one yet, George? Oh, there's a mild, almost like vanilla wafer cookies. You know, like not the vanilla wafers, not like that, but like the ones with the cream. Oh, that's the kind of what's on the nose. That's very interesting. So George is down on his balcony in Virginia. Nice, nice. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate that. And the WarHawk is George Shem's golf cigar. Oh, nice. Doesn't need a ton of attention, which is good because Actually, I'm supposed to play golf. My cousin is in town from Honolulu this week, and they played golf the other day outdoors. But we're supposed to go play at another friend of ours. She has a place. She runs a place where she doesn't run it. She works at a place. She's the golf pro at a place called 5 Iron, which is a indoor simulated golf. You know, where you play like against a screen. So that saves the walking, you know, so I can live the PGA life without actually having to walk the PGA life. So I'm looking forward to that. Oh, and so George Brightman is like, I have enjoyed it very much. I agree. Yeah, that's really fascinating. This is the first time I've seen, I've experienced that. Let's have a look at what they say. So, Nicaraguan in origin, Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan filler. Well, that tells us everything we need to know. Maybe Half Wheel has a little more into it. Let's see. Oh, there we go. See? Wrapper, Ecuador, Connecticut. USA, Connecticut Broadleaf binder. Oh, that's more. Oh, that should be kind of interesting. And then Honduran filler. Oh, it's made in Honduran. Maybe the other. What's the other one that I'm looking at? That's not the WarHawk. Oh, I don't know. Let's just continue. Let's go with the smoking or the cold draw. You know, coming to think, ooh, there's also kind of a sweet bakery note on the cold draw. You know, this idea of vanilla cookie and this bakery kind of tones, it makes you wonder if it should go pretty nicely with this brighter coffee. All right, let's. All right, we're gonna light now. And our official cut, our official lighting is what is this? This is it's an ice lighter. It's actually worked really well. Although it used to bite me when I first got it. Like if I had a finger here on, I guess there's a metal piece where you refill it, it would actually shock me. All right, so here we are. Yes, baking spices. That's that's the description we're looking for. Well, the initial light. Well, the initial thing. Oh, there's still that cookiness to it. I don't know if I've ever really had many cigars that had this kind of really like cookie bakery kind of note. I remember years ago I got the Cuesta Rey. Is that the Cuesta Rey? Yeah, the Cuesta Rey in the tubos. And I remember and that was like, this is back in like 1995 or 96. And I remember like, this is right when I started getting the smoking cigars, I really started smoking cigars probably in 93, 94. And we'd go to the cigar shop and, you know, we'd talk with the guys, and the guys would talk about, like, you hear about people talking, say, oh, the coffee or the cigar is really creamy. And I never really had that experience until this one day that I bought this Henry Cuesta Rey tubo, and it had this really beautiful creaminess to it. That's the only way to describe it. It was super creamy, and I probably smoked about 3 or 4 of them. And I have a box of these tubos. I still have them, and I've always wondered about. I always think I should smoke one or smoke them. But I wonder, like, there's part of me that feels that has my taste progressed to the point where all I want is these punchy flavors, and I won't enjoy a creamy cigar. So I kind of have been hesitant to smoke them more because I'm afraid that maybe I won't like them and I won't enjoy them. So maybe I shouldn't touch them, which probably makes no sense at all. Ooh. It's very light, smooth. There's a little bit of creaminess to it. That bakery note is still there. But we talk about baking spices, I don't really. To me, it's less of the baking spices and really more of that vanilla, cream-filled vanilla cookie. But we'll see. We'll see how it develops. You know, when they talk about the wrapper or the binder being Connecticut Broad, I kind of expect it to have a little more heaviness, or maybe that's starting to develop. No, hold on, let's see. So George is asking, has the cigar diminished over the years? Could have lost the cream. It could have, and that is a good question. And one that I can't answer because like I said, I've been a little bit, I guess, afraid to try it because I've got it's still it's a full 10-count box with the glass tubes, and I don't know, or maybe I'll try one. Okay, maybe I'll try one. I mean, we're it's not like I'm just getting younger, so. But not the grocery store cookies, which have a lot more, much more natural. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, okay, good, good. I will try that. The Westeray tubos. Yeah, the Cameron wrappers on the. I just remember them. I have such a positive memory of smoking them back in the '90s. That I guess it's partially I don't want to disappoint that memory, you know. But really, I should be smoking it. It doesn't. There's no sense to like not. Actually, there's no sense to holding on any of these cigars. But the problem is like, as I've slowed down over the past year with the cigar smoking, it's like, oh, will I be able to catch up? Like I do this thing on my phone where I write down what I smoke, right? And so basically, I just use a real simple function where I take the notepad and just write down the cigar. And even, a little bit, I don't put too much detail into it because all I want to know is the cigar that I smoked. Like here's from last week's show, you can see right here, the Crown Head Mil Diaz, 4 Kicks of Special. See, George, you're even listed on here. And then I put, if it's for the OnoLive show, I'll put the OnoLive, as you can see, or the Escogidos Edition Limitado, we put that for the Cigar Coupe. So, I do it that way, and I've been tracking it since at least 2015. And George saying, you might find that re-smoking one of those grants you a time machine quality, whisking you back to those days when you were first discovering cigar. That's a good point. That's a good point. All right. You guys have convinced me. The double Georges have convinced me. I will have to try it again. Now, definitely, here we are. We're in the first third. Now I'm definitely getting some spiciness. Maybe even a little bit of black pepperishness to it. But definitely beyond just a typical light baking spice. So not just like the baking spice of cinnamon and that kind of thing, and ginger. Oh, definitely maybe a gingery bite and some black pepper. It's getting definitely a little more complex. And the draw is nice and smooth. And there's a good amount of smoke. Yeah, nice. So how's your guys' week been? Anything happen interesting? My week has been all right. What did we do this week? Well, like I said, my cousin's in town, and then I went to some parties this past weekend, I think. What did I do? I went to the pool. Finally got into a pool. That was nice. Pool was still cold, though. That's the thing. It's kind of a blur of what happens in the world. It's like, I don't know what happened. What did I do? I might have done something really interesting. Oh, I went to a place called La Cuchara. This local restaurant here, Spanish, and went with a couple friends. Actually, Raul was one of them. So Raul, myself, and our other friend David, who's been on this show as well. He's the guy that owns the Charmery Ice Cream Company. We used to do this thing called the Tuesday Night Social Club. So on Tuesdays, we would get together and go out somewhere and then have cigars after. And that's a real nice time. And so we hadn't done it in a while because we either had kids and, you know, life gets in the way, and so gosh, it's probably been 2 or 3 years since we actually did the last Tuesday night social club, and so finally we went to a place called La Cuchara, and it's a local restaurant in the Hamden part area of Baltimore, down closer to the Jones Falls side, and yeah, it was great. Like they're Spanish kind of restaurant. We know the chef and we know a bunch of the front of the house people, so they took really good care of us. You know, had us try some sherries, hit us up with some really nice ham from North Carolina that's kind of like American style Iberico. Not quite the same. Like Iberico has this really glassy, like oiliness to it, really like a nice sheen. This one was less. So I would say it's kind of closer. It's kind of maybe like the hybrid of the Iberico, if you were to compare it or synthesize it with the Benton kind of ham from Tennessee. It's kind of got that texture that's in between. It's a nice texture and a really wonderful flavor. So they gave us that, some tomatoes, some fresh tomatoes, beautiful. We had rockfish and what else? We had croquetas and empanadas. I mean, we had like a sherry from 1987. That was kind of crazy. So it was really, really a nice time. So if you have the chance, the place called La Cuchara, it's here in Baltimore. Go check it out. Really good time. All right, we'll stop. Tonight was relatively simple. I just stopped over to the local fish market and got a little loin of haddock, which looked pretty good. Of course, when I got it out of the bag, I let it sit in the room for like an hour because I was just doing other things, and it's in a plastic bag. When I took it in the bag, it was kind of wet, like there was liquid. So it makes you think that it's a frozen piece of haddock, you know. But it wasn't expensive. This one piece of haddock was only like $3.50, so it wasn't too bad. Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, they take a long time. I don't know how long, do you know how long they take to make the Iberico? And I don't know, George, if you've been to this place, there's this restaurant that I like to go to in Manawa. And it's in like in a residential neighborhood, and it's called Tasca Kiko. It's a Spanish restaurant, and they've got beautiful Iberico there, and we'll go there. So one of my friends does this. He loves the red snapper in parchment, and so I don't know if that's really on their menu or not. So, but he's a regular, and that's how I got turned on to it. He's a coffee producer, and whenever we go, we just tell them, you know, the pargo in estilo de Julio Peralta, and they know exactly what to do to it. So we usually get that, and then some kind of paella, so maybe like the black paella, then usually some of the cheese and the Iberico, and then of course the bottle service of the Flor de Caña with the Coke. So that's, if you ever get a chance, if you haven't been there, you get a chance. It's called Tasca Kiko, and it's in Manawa. So I hope they're still there. Gosh, it'd be terrible if they were not. All right, so 18 to 24 months for the young versions of the Iberico. Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, there's a nice spiciness to it now. So that vanilla, like wafer or vanilla kind of cream cookie has pretty much dissipated now, and it's really just this nice spiciness. Still a slight creaminess on the bottom of the palate. You know, it's interesting to smoke this because I don't normally get to smoke. As you can see, I smoke a lot of aromas, so there's not a lot of, I don't really see a lot of this color. Like this is like this color is really like a light Connecticut that I just don't see, or maybe I just don't smoke many of these in this shade anymore. So I'm finding it to be a real treat. So the official size is 6 by 50, and it's a pretty reasonably priced cigar, $8 the MSRP. So, you know, I like that. I definitely like that a lot. Ooh, let me get rid of this. You already know it's the WarHawk now. Henry Clay is one of those brands that, like, since I've been in cigars, it wasn't. I don't ever recall Henry Clay being a brand that I ever heard people talk highly about. It was always kind of one of those that were maybe just a little regarded, just maybe a little bit better than like a drugstore brand. And George, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd be interested to know more about the history behind the Henry Clay. But that's kind of been my feeling of them. And so I remember we didn't really pay much attention to Henry Clay products until Pete did that tattoo with them. And so, of course, I think Pete's involvement with Henry Clay just brings a level of energy that maybe they had been missing. And so I tried it then. So when I saw this at the store, I was like, oh, this seems like it might be interesting. Plus, the name's kind of cool. Almost Candelas. And oh, really? Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, I can see that better in the camera. Yeah, you can kind of see, like, it's almost like very, very light striations of green. Like, yeah, like a hues, like almost like light brush strokes, I guess. I guess in some of my circles, there's a bit of maybe hesitation is a good way to put it. A hesitation for the larger brands, like stuff that comes from Altadas, like those kind of size companies. But you find that they tend to be rather pleasant and typically well made, which is something I found, especially since we started doing this show, we started to try a wider spread of cigars than I normally would have. Left to my own devices, my gosh, I might just sit here and, well, as you can see, I just sit around smoking Revenges most of my days. So I need to get out of my box, I think that's important. All right, so let's see what we got here. So like I do normally, sometimes when I get the deliveries, I got some packages in the mail, so I thought I'd share that with you today. This one's from Amazon. Actually, I got this package and I put it aside and I totally forgot about it. I totally forgot about this package that I received it. And then I was looking on my Amazon account and I was like, hey, where'd that order come? Where did that order go? And I was about to call them and be like, hey, never got that. Then I thought to myself, wait a minute, I got a package sitting around. So George says, Pete created his Henry Clay blend as a tribute to the 70s era Canary production, which included their famous cazadores, the wet packs of tightly wrapped bundles of 25. Oh, nice. Wait, is that the one, the wrap bundles of were those the Henry Clay tattoos, or was that because I thought the cazadores was part of his regular line, especially the wet packs that he likes. And plus, what really is a wet pack? Is it basically, once they've rolled it, they just package it completely in those foil wrappers, or foil bundling? That's what I haven't been clear on. All right, so what's in the box? Magnetic base mirror. So I saw this guy on the internet, on one of the forums, and he was talking about how he likes to watch his shots of espresso. So in the espresso making world, we have these things called portafilters, right? And the portafilter is what you put in the espresso machine, that where you put the coffee and you put it in. And so one modification we did is that we cut the bottom off so that you can see how the espresso forms in the basket, and you can evaluate your espresso. The thing is that once you have the portafilter in the unit, you kind of have to bend down to see it, right? So if you want to see the bottom of the basket screen, you have to do this, which is, well, we've been doing that for years, Oh, I can't really see. But this one guy's posting, he's like, I take this mirror, and it's magnetic. So he takes it, puts it on the on the espresso machine because it's magnet, it sticks, and then moves the mirror around so he can see the flow so he can just look like this, like, oh, there's the. I was like, that's pretty brilliant, and it's only like maybe $5 or something like that. So that was cool. So I got that. And then somebody was talking about this. These are Bolio coffee filters, organic hemp filters. Oh, and these are actually woven filters. I did not realize that. So these are woven filters, number 2s. Of course, I thought I ordered number 4s. Anyway, these are hemp made, and someone online was talking about it in one of the forums that I watch and I participate in, and he was saying that I thought these were actually paper hemp, not actually. But several months ago, or maybe last summer it was, I did a series of videos evaluating paper coffee filters from a variety of manufacturers, both washed and unwashed, natural and bleached. And you know, the general consensus has always been that the natural, unbleached is better. And so we did these bunch of tests to see, are they better, and which ones have an off taste. And I found that all the bleached, well, not all, maybe most of the bleaches did not have any kind of off flavor. They were actually very neutral tasting. But 100% of the natural filters that we used in the test all had some kind of tainted flavor to them. So we use distilled water to give it, so there's no mineral content to like mask anything. So I was gonna so after concluding that the natural filters were rubbish, well, not rubbish, but you know, if you have to rinse it, if you don't want to have the flavor taint, you have to rinse it. So the next step is to do a series of videos where we look at how much do we need to rinse the filters to get rid of that flavor. And I was thinking that we'll throw in this hemp one, but the hemp is, well, maybe we'll still throw it in, but it's a cloth filter. So we'll see. All right, excellent. So George says Pete has the Cazadores due to flamenco and H. Clay Cazadores. Oh, okay. Yes, they are rough appearing, usually broadleaf, cheap back then, and then the paper banded into very tight bundles and wrapped in foil. Okay, in order to give the consumer a taste like a smoked cigar. Oh, okay. That is a treat when you get the cigar for the bench. I still think we should do an origin trip. So the cigars, I was talking a bit, so cigars stay lit, still smoking well. I want to say it's a little bit, at this point, maybe it seems like it's mellowed a bit. Maybe because I haven't been puffing on it nonstop. But the flavor has mellowed. That spiciness is not as pronounced as it was a few moments ago. My cousin is texting me. They want to have a smoke later, which means that I can't go home. It's going to be like last weekend, George, or last Thursday, George. Just a long evening of cigars, which is all right. It's all right. All right, so it's smoking kind of nice. Meaning that, you know, the spice is kind of mellowed. George Shem, I definitely see what you're saying, that this is a great, golf cigar, because it's one of those where now it's gotten to the point where it just became more mellow, and it's pleasant smoking, good draw, but it's one where I guess the best way for me to describe it at this point is that it's not one that I would have to give too much attention to, so I could, be out on the course, hunting for the balls, trying not to fall into the water and get bit by snakes, and I wouldn't be too worried about it. And if I lost it, I never like to lose a cigar. But all right, let's see what else is in the mailbag. Got this thing too, this big old box, quite heavy. This one I'm kind of excited about. I've been wanting to buy this for a little while, but I've kind of held off from buying this because I just, there's other things that I had to buy, and this is kind of my personal indulgence from pretty much my favorite chef. At least I hope this is what I think it is. Ah, yes. Here it is, The French Laundry Per Se by Thomas Keller. And if you're not familiar with Thomas, Thomas is the chef and kind of owner of a place called the French Laundry in Yountville, California, which is in the Napa Valley. And it's a wonderful restaurant. I've actually visited the restaurant a couple times. Never ate there. Let me be very clear that I have not eaten at the French Laundry. It's very sad. Actually, my very first trip there was in 2005. I was in California, so I went out to Yountville just to see it. And I was so excited because I've really been a fan. I'm a fanboy of Keller's, I'll be honest. Okay, so I went out to French Laundry because I wanted to check it out, or just to see it, right? And I ended up eating at his French brasserie, which is called Bouchon. And I ate at Bouchon. Here's the cover again. And I ate at Bouchon, had a really nice time. And then after that, I went over to the restaurant. Or did I eat at Bouchon? Yeah, I'm sure I went to the restaurant, and there's a courtyard inside on the grounds in front of the kitchen. So I parked in front of the restaurant, went into the courtyard, looked around a bit, and I'm peeking into the kitchen window, right? Like a stalker, I guess you'd say. So I'm peeking in the window, and here's this captain, and one of the captains comes out of the kitchen door. He's like, "Hey," and I don't know why he said that, but he was really friendly. He was like, "Hey, do you want a tour?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, really? Yes, I would love to have a tour." Well, let's see what George said. In order to give it to George Shem won't overwhelm with strength either on hot days. Oh yeah, I can see that. Actually, it's nice. It's nice. And I think the flavors tend towards simple but clean. Yes, I totally agree with you on your assessment on that. Absolutely. And so I'm at the French Laundry, and he's like, "Would you like a tour?" I would love a tour. So he takes me to the kitchen, and this is so if you know the French Laundry, the French Laundry has this massive kitchen now, and this is the old kitchen prior to the newest renovation. And Keller has this little alcove at the time for, I guess, where his little workstation is. And he sees me, and he looks at me, and I'm thinking, God, he's looking at me like, who the hell is this jerk off in my kitchen, right? I was like, oh my gosh, there's the master. I can't talk to him. But the captain shows me the kitchen, takes me on a full tour of everything, the dining room, everything to see in this facility, upstairs, downstairs, the whole deal. And it's just a wonderful treat to see this very hallowed, famous restaurant that is regarded as one of the best, if not the best restaurant in the United States. And finally, as I'm about to leave, as I'm finishing, I'm at the front, he takes me back to the front door, the big front blue door, and he drops the bomb on me. And he's like, "Are you by yourself?" I said, "Well, yeah, just me today." He's like, "Would you like to dine with us?" I was like, oh my God. I said, "Well, when?" He's like, "Well, 5:30. It's probably like 3 o'clock. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity to try this, right? The problem is that my flight from San Francisco International is at 9:30. So I said to him, "Well, how long does dinner usually take?" He's like, "Well, it takes about 3 hours." So I'm thinking 5:30, 8:30. There's no way that I can make it from Yountville, California to San Francisco International in time to make a 9 o'clock flight, or 9:30 flight, whatever it was. It was right around the 9 o'clock hour. So I had to politely decline, and I was so disappointed. I was like, oh my gosh. That was my chance to eat there, right? Because, it's a place, even back then, it was really hard to get reservations. Like, you had to, months in advance. So I did not get to eat there. I had to decline. I went back to the airport, sad and dejected. But I figured I'll get another chance to go there. Never did. course, I haven't really made the heavy effort to try to go there. A couple years later, though, I did happen to go to Per Se, right? Which is, I believe this book is about, well, I guess it's about both, because it has pictures from, on the back cover, it has the garden from the French Laundry and the kitchen from Per Se. So, a couple years later, I'm on this like rampage of like the restaurants of America. So in 2007, in February of 2007, I got a reservation to go eat at Alinea, which is run by this guy. The chef is Grant Achatz, and Grant was one of Thomas Keller's sous chef in the past, and he moved back to Chicago, his hometown, to open up his own restaurant. And it's a super intellectual meal that is very like, it's like a 23-course tasting meal. Really, really cerebral, really, really intellectual kind of dishes, really, really experimental. So, like, I went there in February 2007. Had a great time. Had a captain, this woman who was a captain, really nice, enjoyable. And then, fast forward to December of 2007. So, towards the end of the year, and I called one of my friends who lives in New York, Tony Adia. And I think Tony's been on the show. Yes, Tony's been on the show. And so, I said to him, hey man, you guys want to go to Per Se? Because I had actually been able to get a reservation at Per Se for me, Tony, and his wife. And so we went to Per Se. And it's Per Se is kind of like the French Laundry on the East Coast. That's I mean, it really is. I mean, they say it may not be, but for the most part, it really is. And we go there, and it was just a wonderful meal. But to my accounting, the meal that I had at Per Se was the very best restaurant meal that I've ever had at any time. To the point where it was like, we're sitting in the middle of the meal, and George says, "I would." Yes, you're right. But the problem was in the 2007. My status with United wasn't very high yet, because I had just started flying again that year, right? So as you know, George, and those of you who may not be, especially if you're watching on the replay, the higher you are in the program, the easier it is to make changes. And I just wasn't that high then. Like, I had just started I just restarted flying that year in 2007. So it was really, really just an unfortunate time. And the George says, I created you mean the one, what was that called? I remember reading, I read a lot about Thomas Keller because I'm such a crazy fanboy about what he does. But I do remember, Raquel, that was the one in LA. But I do remember him talking about that. Oh, that's great. I would like to I'm interested to know what it would have been like to have gone to his restaurants back in those days. I thought Raquel was LA. Well, maybe you're right. Yeah, I think. So George, Rossi would like to know, was it Raquel? But anyway, so let's see what Thomas has to say in his book. Of course, he's only partially writing that. I have every one of his books, by the way. But I still think, so like I was saying, I still think it is the best restaurant meal. Like, to the point where we're in the middle of our meal, and I'm thinking, if I had the cash, and I could get a reservation, I would do it again the next night. It was so wonderful. I mean, look, he's still making a book as gorgeous as the first one. And then like this whole, look at the way he tapes. I love the taping and the cutting of the tape. That just appeals very much to me. Can you see that? Okay, you can't really see that. I can barely hold it up because the darn thing's so heavy. Anyway, so it's got a lot of, I guess it's got a lot of, I've just opened that and I've seen it, but I'm going to get more into it. Oh, it was Raquel. Yeah, okay, great. That's awesome. Do you have any in contact with him today? in modern times. I've run into Keller a couple times when he came to Star Chefs, which is the chefs conference that happens in New York City every year. Oh yes, absolutely. Have I read Soul of the Chef by Michael Ruhlman? Yeah, that was actually it was probably Ruhlman. I have to be honest. It was probably Ruhlman's book that introduced me to Keller and his story. Which in his story, his backstory of how he came up, pretty much from I guess a self-taught kind of diner background to become fine dining. I think that to me is one of the most interesting stories of them all. Tribute to his first big gig at Raoul's on Soho and his last name. Oh, I imagine, my gosh. So let's go back to the WarHawk. WarHawk smoking well, smooth, nice flavor. The spiciness, that spiciness that was there was a little bit more pronounced. Then it became kind of diminished. Now it's coming back. Not to the same strength that it was previously, but it is making a little slight return. So in that respect, it is kind of interesting. Oh, during the early per se days. Yeah, I went there. I think I was there after the fire. Well, the fire happened right when he first opened, 2005. So I was definitely there after the fire. But it was really a wonderful time. We ended up speaking to the, I guess their barista, who Illy does their coffee at per se, and so we ended up talking with him, and they had some nice French press coffees. So it was really kind of fun. It was fun talking to them, So my captain was a guy named Michael at Per Se, and he was actually featured in some of the books that were, I think in Ruhlman's book, Ruhlman's book, I think he talks about him in a later book. Or maybe it was a different book. Anyway, so this guy Michael had been with French Laundry for a long time, but he was our captain that night. And then one of the runners, and in this kind of place, if you haven't been there, everybody wears suits. The captains wear suits. The runners wear I think they wear a vest and a tie and a shirt. And our captain, Michael, was really wonderful. And actually, it was kind of funny because I was expecting this super formal experience. And Michael was formal, but he was also a bit familiar. Actually, at one point, he said something, I don't know what he said, but he was kind of really casual at one point. I was kind of oh, that's kind of weird, but it was really engaging. So I enjoyed his service completely. But we had this runner, and she would bring the food to the table, but she looked so familiar, and I was like, what is this with this girl? And then it hit me, maybe into the third course, it hit me who she was, and I was like, hey, didn't you used to work at Alinea? And she's like, I did. I was like, whoa. And so it turns out my captain from Alinea was the runner at Per Se. And so her story was that in that time since I was at Alinea, her boyfriend or fiance was also one of the cooks at Alinea. And they both moved from Alinea to Per Se and came to New York City and were working there now. So she was working her way back to captain. And so it was really kind of fun because suddenly we had a connection and had a nice little conversation. So it was really kind of fun in that respect. But Michael was really kind of familiar. So that really kind of made it a lot more fun at the end of the day because it's a really great way of working with the guests. So virtually all the key positions at Per Se were veterans of the laundry. Oh, I believe it. They had, from what I've read, they had shut down the French Laundry when they opened Per Se, so they could bring, I guess, pretty much everybody, even including the dishwashers out there, to teach the New York staff their way. But it was definitely a wonderful, it was crazy. I remember it was December, so we had this dish of risotto. So back then, the menu was $250, I think it was. And you could do these options for a truffle course and a lobster course. You could add on it. It was maybe another $100 or something like that, $200. And since I had never been, it's the only time I'm going to be there, I was like, well, I'll take all of the options, please. And so they hit us. Like, I remember this one course where it was the risotto. So they come up with the risotto, and it's in a bowl that has a cloche. And they sit there, and there's this all pomp, and they put the dish down, and then somebody takes the cloche, and all in unison, all three of us, they pull the cloche off, and then Michael comes back out with this Ellie Blue humidor, right? Which is that really pretty French lacquered humidor. And it's filled with rice and these white truffles from Alba, Italy. And I remember they're like, so they come out with the truffle slicer, and he starts to shave. And he's shaving, right? And you truffles, are expensive, so you're thinking, okay, just a little bit of truffles on top. That's really what you're expecting, just a little bit. Well, this guy, he's shaving, and he's shaving, and he's shaving, and the white truffles are cascading down onto the plate of risotto. And not only is it just, it's not like a perfect, like, it's not like let's say right here is the plate. And it's not like he's shaving it here. He's shaving it like here, or even greater. Like, and basically the truffles are just cascading down. Most of them are falling into the bowl, but there's a bit of it that's falling onto the table. Like, it's just like this massive cascade of snowing Alba truffles. And I'm like, at some point in time, I'm thinking, somebody is going to be running out here and telling him to stop. But he basically shaved the entire knob of truffle onto this risotto. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is craziness. This is amazing. So, yes, it was $250 without the wine pairing. So we went for the whole deal. And I think we did get a bottle. We didn't get anything crazy for the wine because, honestly, this is a $500 meal now for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. I'm like, maybe it'd be nice to get a nice bottle of the, the Chateau de Castel from Côte d'Or. From Chateauneuf. Maybe that'd be great. But my gosh, it'd be $300, right? So we're like, we'll have the white poulet fouissé, please. Our bill there for three of us was $1,500. So we were like, oh my gosh. But that said, like I said, if I had the cash to burn again and I could get a reservation the next night, I totally would have done it the next night. It was totally worth every penny. And since that time, I have been to places like Arpège in Paris. I've been to Pierre Garnier. I've been to, what's it called? Gary Danko in San Francisco. To Charlie Trotter's in Chicago. So I've been to a lot of really, really nice restaurants. And I tell you what, that meal at Per Se was still today the very best restaurant meal I've ever had. So I have a warm spot in my memory for Keller and his restaurants. And plus I like what he talks about. Like when you read about him, he talks about, like, let's say he wants to build legacy, and that really resounds with me. Like, he talks about, I think he worked at Talleyrand in Paris for a while, and so he talks about how he would like his places to eventually become like a Talleyrand, where it's respected, well known, and carries on through the generations. Uh-oh, I'm talking too much. The WarHawk has gone out, so let us relight. Now, Cirillo has that style of relighting. What do you think about this, George? You tell me what you think. But he talks about relighting by going around the edge rather than tapping out the center, hollowing out the center, and then lighting down the barrel. And I've actually found this to be a really nice technique. That's something, George, we were talking about last week when off the air, that someday in the future, for a future episode, it'd be nice to talk about these different techniques on how to get the most out of your light, or like how to really set up the humidor correctly. But for those of you who are watching, one of the interesting things we talked about doing for next time George comes on is about different Japanese whiskeys, and so we're looking to do that later in the summer. All right, the relight. A little bit of the initial puff on the relight, a little bit of charring. But it lit pretty fast, and it's burning nicely. So Rusty, are you out smoking too with us tonight, or are you just sitting at home? All right, so we got the last box from our mailbag. This one came from Roma, from Sean. I don't know what it is. It just arrived, and I was like, oh. I thought this was interesting. This is the first thing I noticed was the label. It's a brown label. It's like, recycled label, like environmentally eco-friendly label. So Rusty's at home, gonna light the WarHawk after work tomorrow. Nice, nice. How has work been for you, man? How's that place you're working at the butcher shop? Are you cutting the meats now? That seems like a fascinating thing to do, is to cut the meats. All right, let's see what Mr. Coleman has provided with us today. Oh, is this, more Weasel Fest stuff. Ooh. So we're at 10 tempers. Oh, it's from Skip. I wasn't able to make it. Thank you, Skip. Gosh, this is very amazing. I did miss an epic one. Gosh, if you've seen the pictures from Weasel Fest, oh man. How much I would love to have been there. It looked amazing. Looked amazing. Oh, there's a Weasel Fest sticker. Oh, nice. Nice vinyl sticker. Oh, and here's the cool thing. So you get a tag, right? Of course, you get your backstage pass or whatever it is. And so Skip at one point took a photo of those that did not attend. And look at this thing. So it's a lanyard that has the Weasel Fest. So if you've seen the photos online, you've seen this part. And look at this thing. It's metal. That's pretty. And your names are printed on it. Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Skip. This is amazing. This is wonderful. And inside we have the catador de los. It's been so long since I've been anywhere, so it's hard to speak the Spanish. El catador de los petit gordos. 4.5 by 60. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, at the bottom here. So we have 12 petit gordos, Intemperance BA 21, the Intemperance EC 28 or 18, the Intemperance Whiskey Rebellion 1794, Cro-Magnon Aquitaine, and the Neanderthal. Oh, I didn't know we'd be getting this. This is very exciting now. Let us break into this a little bit, just so we can see. These are one of those cigars that you get because they're really limited edition. So you're like, oh, do I smoke them? Do I just put them in the humidor and But I'll smoke them. I always, I can't. You guys know me already too well. I can't say no to these cigars. They're very, very addictive. Let's open it up. We're gonna open it up. Oh, I gotta. You know me. I'm a very much a stickler for the sello de garantía, the labeling here. People will use all kinds of stuff to cut. I always have to use a knife because I just want it to be pretty. All right, so here we are. Let's get into this. See if we can get the sound. Ooh, it's tight. Ooh, there we are. Nice. Awesome. So there we are. We have the Neanderthal. Neanderthal. The Aquitaine. The Cro-Magnon. Whiskey Rebellion. The the EC of the Intemperance line, and then of course the BA, the Brazil Auto Paraca that I really love. Oh, lovely. Thank you, Skip. Very much. Thank you very much. This is a wonderful thing. I'm very excited to have it. I will be smoking these soon. All right, so let's go back to the WarHawk. So Rusty's in the deli section. The butchers are a bunch of badass. Oh, so these aren't the... do you mean by that these guys, that are the butchers, are not the new generation of like mustache and fancy apron wearing guys? Or these like the old school guys with the white aprons that are like old and grizzly or grizzled? And how much is the anglais, the hanger steak? How much do you guys charge for that? Because I can't seem to find those anywhere around here anymore. And when you do, it's like now like $20 a pound. It's crazy. Yeah, when we were on the Cigar Group show last week, one of the questions was, you know, what kind of steak do you like? And I do like the hanger. I think that's one of my favorites. And I was really first introduced to that hanger when we go to Le Hall, and Le Hall is it really kind of became known because of Anthony Bourdain. And so Bourdain, I used to go to the one in D.C. and George, I'm presuming that you've been there. Oh yeah, that's good. Let me know. I wonder. Right on. I love it. Are the old Italian guys? Is it like a Satriali's kind of place? Where like if you don't want to go there at night, I mean you don't want to work at night. Yeah, is that because, why is that? Any ideas why it's, is it just because, I don't know, the shipping, or are we low on meat in America? Where I've been finding good deals, we have a local, well not a local, but locally they opened a Lidl, which is a German grocery chain. I've been to the ones in Germany quite a bit, but they have steaks, like nice sized ribeye steaks for like, I've been getting them for like $10 to $13, and they're pretty sizable. They've been really nice, you know, I'm really surprised. You're talking about the one that's, I presume you're talking about the one at Park in 29. That was a great one. You know what I liked about the one at that location was that their menu was bigger than the one we had in DC. But what I really loved there was their coconut ice cream. Like, I thought, I don't know where they got it from or if they made it in house, but that coconut ice cream they had at the Park Avenue Le Hall was just my favorite. Actually, it's my favorite. And for me, that's really kind of where I learned about the hanger steak, the anglais, is that they would have the anglais with the shallot sauce, and I just love that dish. I loved it. So at the DC location, we would go there. I found out, I learned about the DC location not through Bourdain, actually, because it was because of PG, Paul Gamerian. So I met Paul in I think 2000, maybe no, it was 2002, because our friend Peter Gunn had opened a cigar shop here in Baltimore called Adam Leaf and Bean, and he knew Paul, and started bringing Paul cigars into his shop. And so Paul came out, and he was like, "I'm having this dinner, and we're going to have cigars, and we're going to eat steaks at this place called Le Hall in DC." So I was like, I was really fascinated with Paul. I really liked with his story. I liked everything that he did. I was a lot of respect for the guy, and so I was like, I need to go to this dinner, you know. And I was just one of our friends was like, wanted to know the whole menu. I was like, you know what? I don't care about the menu. I'm just gonna go because this guy seems interesting, and I like his cigars. Actually, I smoked his Bellicosa Maduro like for 5 years, like almost exclusively for 5 years. So I really loved his cigars. And George says, "Oh wow, I didn't know that you guys was that." Oh yeah, totally, totally. I see how you could be there all the time. Now, I'm sure that I was there during the era. I'm sure I came to Park Avenue during the era where you could smoke inside, but I don't recall if I ever smoked there and where you could smoke in that restaurant. In DC, it was kind of like the bar was in the center of the restaurant and had like this brass railing and they had these rolled down like bamboo shades that you could cordon off the bar area, but it wasn't like any kind of real physical. But we used to go there and smoke and eat, and that to me was one of the greatest times. Was that you could go and have a cigar while eating your steak. And one of my friends, Bud, he's always talking. He'll talk. We ask him about those times. He'll talk about it. I guess one time we're eating and smoking, and I guess I kind of dropped my ash on the steak, and he says I kept eating. I'm like, it sounds like it's plausible. But yeah, we would go there to the DC location probably once a month, sometimes once a week. So we actually had a small group. Some of my friends from Baltimore come down, or I call it my cousin Walter, who lives down there, and then our friend Evan, who is from the Philippine Embassy. I believe he's now the Philippine ambassador to Switzerland. I think. I haven't seen him in a while, but that was a great time. We go there, have a cigar or two, have a meal. Wonderful. But that's really how I learned about the hanger steak. So, moving along, that was really still smoking nicely. It's got an enjoyable flavor to it, but relatively mild. It's not terribly challenging. Like, it doesn't really like demand your attention, but it's just enjoyable. It's pleasant, and that's really nice. Did Paul? No, he did. But he talked about how he took his wife onto a dinghy in some lake and how he was playing guitar for her. And yeah, I haven't heard him play. I think some of the other guys have heard him play when they came to see him. But PG's been with you guys. Like, my understanding is that he was with you guys when you guys were George, when you were still at Georgetown Tobacco many years ago. That he was, I guess, part of that scene back then. I have to say, my friends and I were kind of disappointed when he took over the place in McLean, because we enjoyed going down and getting his cigars there when it was still the old cigar shop, and then when he took it over, he took all the seating out, so you couldn't just go there and like hang out. I mean, I get it. I mean, I guess if you're running a cigar company, what you don't want is people hanging out with you all the time. Then you'll never get your work done. Good. Oh, here's something that I haven't seen, that I didn't see. So George said earlier that Henry Clay was a sister brand of Don Diego, Flamenco and Monte Cruz, made by Intasa and run by the Menendez and Garcia families, late of Cuba. Ah. After our discussion last week about some of the cigars, it kind of re-piqued my interest in trying more cigars that are made with the Canary Island wrappers. I think that'd be really interesting to try. Or I mean, more to explore. Mm. Yeah, his cigars, I really do like what PG comes out with. Like I said, the Bellicoso Maduro, when I think of like my favorite cigars overall, that Bellicoso Maduro still is my number one favorite. I've always kind of ranked it, for me, Bellicoso Maduro from PG, number one. My second favorite cigar is the SP54, the 1975 Serie Privada Capa Maduro from Aid Flores. And then I would say the third most favorite cigar would be the original Kohonu that Pete came out with in 2003. I first got that cigar because I was in Honolulu visiting some friends in 2004, December, Christmas time in 2004. And I don't know if George, if you know Marvin Chang, who runs Arfield Winery in Honolulu, but Marvin's an old friend of ours. We've been smoking together since the 90s, and he used to come hang out with us at a place called Don Pablo's Cigar Shop, which was the Hawaii outpost of Don Pablo Cigars from Las Vegas. And so we got to know Marvin back then, and so Marvin was one of I believe one of Pete's very first accounts in America or in the business. And so I remember smoking that, and I was just so blown away by that Kohonu that I've always loved it. So I would say that that's probably my third favorite, and then the fourth favorite would be the Revenge, being 21 from Skip and Mike. Just great cigars, great cigars. And always consistent, that's the nice thing. All right, so we're still going on. Now we're probably, we're coming towards the end of the second third. I'm going to take off the band so that it doesn't interfere. How are your guys' cigars turning out? Enjoying them? Are these your first time with them? Like George, you got that HVC hot cake that's out there. How's that coming out for you? Also, for those of you watching, whether you're watching live or during the replay, let me know if there's any topics you'd like for us to explore, and or cigars you'd like to try, or things you'd like to learn about either coffee or cigars. Drop them in the comments, and then I'll work on getting those as part of the future episodes. I think we're going to try, now that the pandemic is starting to wind down, I'd like to bring more in-studio guests to come in. I think, it's nice to do, it's fun to do the remotes, like kind of broadcasts that we've done where people call in, but I do like it. I think it's a bit more dynamic when you're in person. You can really kind of get a feel for the topics and just have things to talk about. But I mean, the Grand Kohonu, was it called Grand Kohonu back then? I think the one that I think there's the Grand Kohonu, which is that like almost 60 ring gauge. But I'm really thinking of the one that they call now the 2003. That's the size. I guess it's like a Toro size. Ooh, the Juarez. Yes, that's the one. I still have to smoke that one. I've never had that. So, do they call it Juarez because some component is from Juarez in Mexico? And those Crown Head cigars were wonderful last week. Yeah, we had the 2 Mil Diaz and then the Capa Especial. Those were just fantastic. So be sure to tell John that I said thank you. That was really great to have. And thanks for bringing those up. So what's happening for the weekend? Anything going on? The weekend for us, for me, I don't. Well, my cousin's in town. Oh, we're playing the simulated golf on Saturday night. Sunday, I don't know. I don't know. I got to work more on the YouTube videos. I've got the on this channel, the onocoffee channel. Got on Saturday we got the third episode of the Coffee Wonderland dropping at 9 a.m. And that's a series of. It's going to be a series of 5 videos total. That is with my buddy Greg Skase, who is a former, I guess, technical scientist for the NIST, the National Institutes of Standards and Technology. He was there for many years. Now he's retired, but he's really a big coffee enthusiast, and he developed this thing called the Skase device, which is a device that will measure accurately the temperature of the water coming out of your espresso machine, as well as the pressure, so that you can calibrate your machine to get the results that you want. If you're really into the technical side of espresso making, and you have your own machine, it's really a worthwhile purchase. It is pretty expensive. Like the full one is like $400, but it does quite a bit. But that series was really springboarded because our friend Kent Baki, who owns La Marzocco, sent him the new lever machine, a single group made for the home, and it was really like, to my mind, it's truly the ultimate espresso machine for the home. It's just an amazing espresso machine. And that's actually designed for commercial use. So you see these in commercial installations where there are 2, 3 groups. Well, this is a single group, and so it's really just, when he first told me that he got it, I was like, we have to make a video. So we're down there, shooting this video, and so the video covers not just the espresso machine, but the lever, but it also covers how the shots are pulled on the lever, as well as a comparison between coffee on the machine that was ground in a Malconic EK43, as well as the Weber EG1, which are these two, like, really, the EK43 is really popular in a lot of coffee circles for use in commercial applications, and the EG1 is this really kind of fancy, high-tech, I guess it's for commercial use, but at our home, I don't really know exactly where that one really is supposed to fit in, but it's really a cool-looking machine from an industrial design standpoint. And we compare the way the shots come out of that, and then we also compare the shots from those 2 grinders on a Nova Simonelli Aurelia 2 espresso machine. So if you're into espresso coffee, I think this is really something to check out. And I've also kind of left it in a very long format, meaning that the episodes now, 3, 4, and 5, are running like an hour each, because we're really getting into it's really about geeking out and getting deep into the minutia of the shot pulling from each of these espresso machines, as well as from each of the grinders. So if you really want to geek out on espresso coffee, this is really the series for you. So George says the original Kahuna were 60 RG, 60 ring gauge. The later gen Kahuna were similar. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, I guess I must have had the 60 ring gauge. And then the Juarez are Mexican Capas. Okay, great. Very good. Yeah. I think if you like coffee, you'll really like that. And then on the Spro Coffee channel, I've started running 2 videos a week there. So we have a normal series that comes out on Sundays, which is the cafe vlog, and that's basically a series that is showing the viewer how we make the different drinks that we make here at Spro. And so it pretty much goes through the entire process of making each drink. It's a non-narrated one. It's just music, and I think it's kind of fun to watch. And but it's really exactly what we do. So if you're the kind of person that wants to know how we make our drinks, this pretty much shows you in good detail how to do it. And then the second thing that I've done is this is our 3rd episode of something I'm calling Cafe Verite. And the Cafe Verite series is something I got from this guy on YouTube called Lawn Care Juggernaut. And this guy is, he's out of Oklahoma. I think he's in Tulsa. And what he does is that he basically makes videos of him cutting lawns. And his kind of thing is where he finds these lawns with these crazy, like, high grasses. Basically, they're places that the owners just haven't kept up in months. And I mean, the grasses in some of them are like 5 feet tall. And he shows how he goes and cuts them down. And I saw that it was weird because his videos are like an hour. And I normally don't really watch those kind of lengths. But I found it to be kind of enjoyable because you sit there and you watch, and he voiceover narrates what he's doing, and most of the time it's just this static camera of him cutting this lawn, and he talks about, well, this is what I'm doing, or it talks a story about what he's doing and why, and how he's approaching the cutting. And I just thought that was really an interesting way to produce a video. So I started doing these Cafe Verite videos where it's similar in that we're taking the camera and we're just kind of showing how we make drinks at our shop. So you basically have this static camera that I'm making drinks, and then I'm voiceover narrating what we're doing and how we're thinking about it. And so the first episode was only like 7 minutes. It shows the opening of the shop, what things we do when we're opening, and then one drink. And that was at 7 minutes, because I've been really kind of like hesitant to make long form videos, mainly because I just don't know if people will be interested in that. And so the first one ended up being 7, and I found as I was narrating it. So what I do is that I take George says, gotta hop off. All right, thank you very much, George, for coming. Appreciate you doing that. Oh yes, of course. And so Rob has let me look him up here. Let me look him up so that I can show you what it is. So Rob, my buddy Rob up in Canada, does a Sunday night live stream where he basically will look. It starts at Sunday night at 10 o'clock, and where's the name of it? And I'm gonna find you the link for it so you can see it directly. And the problem is that when you punch some things into the YouTube search, it doesn't quite come up quickly, so I have to kind of look for it manually. Sorry about this, the length on this. Where is it? Come on now. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's called Jim and Rob Overanalyze. Oh my gosh. Let me pull that up here so you can see it. Here it is. So this is it. It's Rob Christensen, as you can see, Kristjannsson, and this is the short version. So this most recent one was from last Sunday. They did about the original Blade Runner, the final cut, and so they do the long form live stream on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and then a couple days later they'll release the shortened version. So this one runs. 17 minutes. So it's really a fun time to watch. I try to watch it. Unfortunately, since it's on Sunday night and it's kind of late, I don't get to really see it till the replay. But definitely go check it out. And it's really a fun show to watch. And Jim and Rob have some really interesting takes on movies. And speaking of which, that reminds me, I had one of my regular guests is a guy named Bill Hughes. We call him Bill. And so he's been in a couple movies, really smaller roles, but he's been in a number of John Waters movies because he's from Baltimore. And so his son-in-law is a post-production sound guy. And so the son-in-law was visiting, so they brought him down the shop. So his name is Charlie Campagna. And Charlie's been involved in, he was in Blade Runner 20, he did work for Blade Runner 2049, worked with a lot of people that I worked with. So he's worked with like Tony Scott and did a lot of movies, a lot of stuff like stuff that I was blown up. He did work on Spectre, on Star Trek Beyond, just a lot of big credits. But he does a lot more of the post-production stuff. So he's recording a lot of sound effects or just sounds that you would think. Like for example, he was telling me with one story where I guess Tony and Ridley did a movie about Robin Hood. And I guess that's Prince of Thieves. I'm not sure. So he was talking about how they would record the arrows, right? So you pull the arrows and you want to get that sound, right? And he was telling me how he was recording it. And like he would take 12 microphones, set them in a U pattern, and microphones of different, so you like shotgun microphones, omnidirectional, supercardioid, dynamic, and he put them all in this rig, and then they would shoot the arrow through it, and then they would actually modify the arrow with different types of feathers. Some things they would do, they would put like zip ties around it because they're trying to get that arrow to make a sound that they can use in the video or in the movie. And he does things like that. And like he did work on John Wick 3, and he was telling me how he's working with Keanu, and I was like, so in John Wick, in those kind of movies, what I was really interested in those movies, like, so let's say you're shooting a machine gun, right? And of course, a machine gun, if you're recording the sound for the soundtrack, because I guess the location sound, the actual production sound for that doesn't really have the sound quality characters they need for the actual finished movie. So they'll actually go out in the field and like start shooting. And I was asking him, so do you, with machine gun fire, are you actually like, so let's say in that one burst, the guy shoots 8 rounds. Do you go out there and recreate that, or are you recording it in like individual gunshots and then piecing them together? And he said, well, a lot of times we're just piecing it together. And I was like, wow, that's just super fascinating stuff. So it was interesting. So yeah, so check out Rob's Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies on Sunday nights. It's a really good show. And yeah. So how's our cigar doing? Cigar's doing nicely. We're still kind of like in the end of the second third. The cigar has gone out because I'm talking too darn much. So what do we like? All right. Let me just stop that for a second. There we go. Good. Thank you, George. I appreciate that. I know you're probably off by now, but thank you very much. So if you're just joining us on the live stream or the replay, we're smoking the Henry Clay WarHawk, and we're drinking the Sumava from Costa Rica that we make for Spro, and it's a beautiful coffee. Really lovely farm down in the Tarazu Valley. So what else is happening in the world out there? So I guess what's happening in the news, Biden is in Europe, in the United Kingdom. Evidently it's his first trip. First trip out of the U.S. since he became president. I don't really know what he's doing there. They didn't really say too much about. Oh, they go to the G7. That's what they said. The G7, the Group of 7 meeting they're having in, I guess, somewhere in the UK. That's what he's there for. What else is going on in the world? Two dead after shooting at a Publix grocery store in Florida. Man, Florida, people are going crazy. And Florida has also banned teaching critical race theory at the schools. Florida just seems like a crazy place. Oh, I see. So, the banning of critical race theory is about preventing schools from teaching about systemic racism. Also, I don't know if you saw this, there was an article in Time magazine that came out today or recently that was talking about the Alamo and how the Alamo story that everyone knows is a complete fabrication. That it just didn't happen that way. Like Davy Crockett gave himself up and was executed by the Mexicans. And as the Mexicans were attacking the Alamo, that quite a lot of the soldiers at the Alamo decided to run away. And they got piked by the lances. And so it wasn't really evidently it's not quite the story that we've been taught. What else been happening? Oh, did you guys see the new Loki? Loki just came out yesterday. And for those who are not familiar, Loki is that the new Marvel series, which is running for 6 episodes. And basically the premise is that Loki, okay, I'm going to presume that you know the Marvel story. So you know that in Loki gets killed, right? That Thanos kills him when all the Asgardians are on that ship after well, not Ragnarok, but whatever that, oh, I guess it was Ragnarok, wasn't it? So after they flee on that ship and after Asgard is destroyed by that big monster and Loki gets killed, right? So that's basically it. And so in Endgame, when they travel back in time into 2012, when they had that big war in New York City and Loki had been captured, and basically Tony Stark drops the Tesseract and Loki picks it up and then disappears. And so basically this series starts from that point where evidently that disappearance of Loki is actually a departure from the official timeline. And so there's a group called the TCA, Time Code Administration or something like that. And basically they are there to enforce time, kind of like Jean-Claude Van Damme's time code that the organization Jean-Claude Van Damme worked for in Time Cop. It's kind of similar to that, where they police the timeline. So they pick up Loki, and now Owen Wilson is, I guess, Loki's kind of handler. And it's an hour long, and it's actually quite good. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of it. So if you haven't seen it, check that out for sure. Then the other show I've been watching is Star Wars: The Bad Batch, the animated series about the Bad Batch of clones and how they're kind of on the run from both the Empire and everybody else, and that's been pretty good. I guess it's the 5th episode finally came out. I saw that. Oh, that was last weekend. That's good. And although I'm kind of wondering where they're going with it, like it's a little, I guess in some respects it's a little bit meandering, and then the other show that I've been following, of course, is The Blacklist. And like I've said in the past, what I really like about The Blacklist this year is that where most of the network shows have been giving reduced seasons, meaning like Magnum and SWAT and SEAL Team are all like 15 to 16 episodes. Blacklist is going for the full 23 that you normally get, so they're running through the 23rd of June. So there's still 3 more episodes left in the series for this season, and so that's gotten really, really interesting. I don't know if you follow Blacklist, but if you do, I think now, like when the last episode that I watched ended, I was like, oh my gosh, what in the world? I need to keep going. So that's a good one. And then I've been watching this thing called, not too heavily, but Jupiter's Legacy. It's Josh Duhamel, and they're all like superheroes. He's got a superhero family, and I probably watched like 5-6 episodes of that the first season, and I'm not sure where they're going either. Yeah, I don't know. What have you guys been watching? Drop in the comments below. I'd like to know. Anything good to see? Oh, I know what I saw this week. For some reason, my YouTube feed has been giving me, or last week was giving me, short videos about a movie from 2015 with Robert De Niro and Aubrey. What is her name? The girl from Parks and Rec. Aubrey something. Anyway, for some reason it started showing me clips from that, and actually I thought it was kind of interesting. So basically the premise is that Robert De Niro is this grandfather of Zac Efron, and Robert De Niro's wife has passed away, and the wife has told him to sow his oats, go live your life, go do what you want to do. I guess the wife had cancer for several years, so the idea is kind of sad, but De Niro. So De Niro's idea is that they're in Atlanta, in Georgia, and so he gets Zac Efron's character, bring him to Florida, because basically De Niro's character wants to get laid, and it's kind of about that Aubrey Plaza. So it's Aubrey. So they run into Aubrey Plaza's character, and it's just outrageous and funny. And I thought it was hilarious. Like they're just it's like The Bachelor. The Bachelor is it The Bachelor, the one that with Bradley Cooper when they're in Vegas? I think is that the name, The Bachelor or The Bachelor Weekend or whatever. But it's that kind of like ridiculous humor, and I thought it was really, really funny, like really hilarious. It's dirty. It's like they're cursing up a storm. They're talking about all kinds of sex, and it's like, I thought it was funny. So if you're looking for something to watch, check out Dirty Grandpa. De Niro has really got an interesting role in that one. Oh, my cigar's going out again. There's just too much talking. The interesting thing about like last week's show was that we've really plowed through like 2 cigars in our 2-hour show, where normally I'm just taking one, like it takes me one. And speaking of shows, evidently the what do you call it? The concerts are going to be starting up soon, or sometime in the future. Like I'm almost seeing that because I've noticed that a lot of my friends on Facebook have been posting about different concerts and music festivals that they're buying tickets to and planning for. Like one of my friends, Scott, he was just posting about how, who was it? Oh, was it? I guess it was Bruce. I think Bruce Springsteen is coming to town, and his tickets are $750. And I thought that $250 for YouTube was a lot, but $750. Wow, that's really something. Like, I can't believe how expensive that is. Oh, and my buddy Emil down in Florida, he actually just, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's AC/DC is back, and AC/DC has come out with a new album. I guess he comes with a new album. Let me see. He just kind of messaged me the other day. He's like, hey man, I want you to check this out. And they have a new release, this last week or the week before. Let's see where it is here. Let me see if I can find it here. Anyway, he was the DP on it, or shot part of it. Of course, I run a search on YouTube and I can't find it. Where in the world? Let's see here. Let's see. Let's go to their official channel. Oh, here it is. It's a show called it's a new single called Realize. So they shot this on what they call the Insta360 camera, and I think it's an 8K. You know, there it is. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this down now because it's almost 10 o'clock. So the question is that we always want to ask, that Rusty always wants to know about, is, would I buy this cigar again? The Henry Clay WarHawk Toro. Yes, I think I would buy it again. It's good price point, $8, and it's got a really kind of like mild overall flavor experience. There are parts where it starts off, like I said earlier on, it starts off with like really light baking, those like the vanilla wafer type of cookies, and then it gets a bit spicy at the first third, and then that spice mellows down by the time we get to the second third. So it's a dynamic flavor experience that I think is quite enjoyable. So yes, I would buy it again. I would recommend it. It's a like George Shem says, it's a great cigar for like golfing. So it's not terrible. It's not terrible one that demands your focus and attention. It's something you can smoke and enjoy and just have a nice experience with good amount of draw, a good amount of smoke and a nice draw on it. So yeah, for sure. All right, so if you happen to be watching the replay, please leave your comments down below if you'd like to let me know what you'd like to see in future episodes. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you spending this time with me. It's always been a great time here on Thursday nights. We'll always be back again. And Thursday nights at 8 p.m. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend and a great week. And see you next time.